With less than a week to the commencement of the Petroleum Industry Act, the federal government has announced the extension of the implementation timeline of the PIA by 18 months. According to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipre Sylva, the decision was taken after extensive consultation with all key stakeholders within and outside the government to ensure that all necessary modalities are in place to cushion the effect of the PMS subsidy removal. In line with the prevailing economic realities, it is worthy of note that with the assent of the new law by President Buhari on August 16, 2021, the PMS subsidy removal was therefore expected to take place effective February 16, 2022. With this new development in place, the big question is now is what will be the impact of on the oil and gas industry? Joining me now via Zoom to provide answers to some of these questions is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the International Energy Services Limited, Dr. Diron Fawibe. Good afternoon, Dr. Fawibe. It's good to see you, sir.
Good afternoon, Tolu. How are you doing?
Very well. 18 months has been added to the time we expected proper implementation of the PIA. Some say this is political and not economical. Some say it's economical and not political. How does this come to you?
Well, 18 months is not an end of the world. If ever it is political, maybe for good reasons. The reasons for extending the payment of subsidy was actually given by the Minister of State for Petroleum and quoting from the discussion he had with the President Muhammad Buhari. Now, the issue was that if the federal government goes ahead with the implementation of subsidy removal, it will create a lot of hardship for Nigerians, especially the poor people. Well, this is a statement, and there's no doubt that if the price of fuel goes up to, say, about 300 naira per liter, and you know Nigerian motorists and everybody will be jumping on the bandwagon of increase or removal of subsidy. And the yam seller, the akara seller, the groundnut seller will now say that the price of there's no more subsidy and the price of fuel has gone up. So, and on a more serious note, many Nigerians tend to profiteer from any small change in government actions or government policies or government measures to take advantage of other people, other Nigerians. And you can bet it that if the subsidy is removed, there will be increase in the price of fuel, and it will lead to a chain reaction across the length and breadth of the country, and especially the users of consumers of petrol. So I think for that reason, the federal government felt in its wisdom to suspend the implementation of subsidy removal, and consequently the provision that affect the subsidy payment in the Petroleum Act, which has just been passed to law by the federal government.
So definitely there will be legal implication to this. Are we taking the law back to the Senate? What would happen? Legal implications, and also financing this. Already the NNPC says, or the minister says, NNPC is requesting for about 3 trillion naira for the 18-month period to pay for subsidy.
Well, it will be inappropriate for federal government to continue to abandon to continue to pay subsidy while the law that comes into effect says that federal government will no longer do that. Because don't forget that the law was the bill was signed into law on August 16, 2021. And the federal government gave 6 months to tidy up some loose ends, not to cause disruption and dislocation in the economy. And there's 6 months was for all stakeholders to put their acts together to ensure that there is a smooth transition to full regulation. of the petroleum product prices, but particularly petrol. But now that that is no longer going to be the case, it's only reasonable and it's only legal that government has to go back to National Assembly to make amendments to the law not to commit illegality. And it's within the ambit of the National Assembly, either from the proposal coming from the executive to discuss and amend the section of the law that stipulates that there will be no restriction in the payment of prices of petrol or control of product prices, and the prices of products will now be subject to market forces. So if the proposal gets to National Assembly, and even the President of Senate said about over a week ago that the President has not given his instruction for the removal of subsidy. And anybody hearing that statement at that point will know that the issue of subsidy removal probably may not be on the card. And one will not be surprised that the Minister of State came out to say that indeed the President has suspended the implementation of that law, or there will be no longer the application of that section of the law as it relates to payment of subsidy, because the 6 months moratorium that could say will end February 16. So ahead of that, the federal government has already come out, and already the traditional opponents of subsidy removal have been gearing up for action. You know, that is the labor union and some sympathetic civil society organizations. I think they have now cancelled their proposed strike across the length and breadth of Nigeria as a result of this extension. So the National Assembly, in its wisdom, will now consider the time for the extension, although judging from the statement of the minister, you know, about 18 months would then be considered, which in effect will take the removal of subsidy to the next administration that will come in as from May 2023. So the present administration will no longer be bothered about the removal of subsidy. And well, it's unfortunate that this is the reality we are faced with, and if government says cannot, not prepared to go through that, there's nothing anybody can do. Either it could be political, you know, and it's a debatable issue among Nigerians, you know, whether we can attribute it to political decisions or economic decisions. But certainly, if you read the lips of the major players in the system, you will know that it is more political than economic. And now it will mean that federal government will have to look for funds to implement its budget with regard to the removal of, with regard to the payment of subsidy. Because with the present budget, you know, provision was made only up till February this year, February this year, or probably July. So, and there's no way government will not have to look for fund, you know, and in the absence of any channels of getting fund, it will resort to borrowing money, which of course, you know, will mean that the burden of deficit financing would certainly increase, you know. So, and then this is the situation in which we find ourselves, and likely because if we have been, if we have put all our acts together over the past 3 or 4 decades in refining crude oil, which God has blessed us with, and we are able to refine sufficient volume of crude oil, we'll be able to produce enough refined product and that will back out importation of petroleum products, which was at the heart of the subsidy. Then we then have to look at the various factors that will determine the prices of petroleum products within the country. It will not have to take account of the fact that these products are being imported from foreign land. But that is the reality in which we find ourselves, and we cannot run away from it.
Finally, now before I let you go, Dr. Fawibe, you touched on refining, which is key, and many say we cannot deregulate with importation. That's an argument on one side. 1.5 billion has also been committed for the Port Harcourt refinery, which the NNPC says will be rehabilitated. That's on another side. Smuggling is also on one side. What's your reaction to these issues as we wrap up?
Well, the federal government knew all along that without the refineries in Nigeria working, the issue of food regulation may not be feasible, and it's pretty clear, and many expert opinions have confirmed this, over time, that if you don't tackle the issue of supply of products, if you continue to import petroleum products, especially with the galloping prices of crude oil in the world market, and consequently the price of petroleum products, in those countries where we import fuel, there will be increase in the price of products. The recent increase in the landing cost of fuel and the resulting decreased subsidy was as a result of the increase in the price of crude oil in the world market, which of course will serve as feedstock for the refined product. So we cannot run away from paying the appropriate price, for the imported fuel. So on that note, the issue of refinery, becomes very key, and government is now working on Port Harcourt refinery, and the assurance the Minister of State was given, in his press conference, was that before the year runs out, Port Harcourt refinery will start to produce, although it may not be producing up to full capacity. We have two refineries there, really. The old refinery of 60,000 barrels per day, and the new one of 150,000 barrels per day, with a combined capacity of 210,000 barrels per day. So if at the level of work done by between now and the end of the year, probably the refinery could be operating at about 60%, if not 70% capacity. Hopefully, by the time the refinery is fully rehabilitated, it should be able to produce approximately about 90% capacity, plus or minus. So on that will augment the supply of products from Dangote refinery, which according to information may be going on stream towards the end of third quarter of this year. So to a larger extent, we should be able to get probably about 600,000 barrels per day of domestic refined products in the country before the year runs out. And that, of course, will not create too much burden for the incoming administration in 2023 to consider the removal of subsidy at the earliest opportunity.
It's nice talking to you, Dr. Timipre Sylva, CEO, Chairman of International Energy Services Limited. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. We really do appreciate this.
Thank you.